Sue and I are really very grateful to have this opportunity today. We presented this paper at the Early Childhood Intervention Conference in Perth, and we then also took the same presentation to the Early Childhood Australia Conference, which also was in Perth 6 weeks later, as a poster. And we brought our poster along as well, just to show you if you wanted to have a look and see how the presentation translated into a poster. So this is about a journey for us. But before I started on our presentation, I just wanted to revisit a couple of things that were said this morning and the inspirations that both of us gained from this morning. We listened to Inga speak about all children having the best chance at learning, and she really highlighted, and I wrote this down very quickly, you know, the collaboration between sectors, that this is a time for us all to be working together for every child. And that position statement was just such a it was powerful to be present at not only the Early Childhood Intervention Conference and the Early Childhood Conference, to hear how the position statement was launched and heard by both sectors, because we really have grown quite separately, and people like Sue and I have had the privilege of jumping between the two sectors, early childhood and early childhood intervention, and depending on what day of the week, if it was Wednesday, I'd be just playing with my kinder kids. I still work in early childhood as a early childhood educator, so but you know that's not that everyone hasn't had that opportunity to grow within the two sectors. So this is the position statement, gives us this opportunity to grow together, work together for the support and inclusion of all children, and to have that vision for a high quality practice, and particularly to really make happen that right for all children to be included in all services. Tim reminded us about quality relations and what that means within all environments, and again talking about ECI and EC teaming up together. So I loved, thank you Sarah for your comment, what would the ideal model really look like? And what we're about to present is our challenge. We were faced with this complex position of developing inclusive practices and supporting early childhood educators within our kindergarten inclusion support program, and no one else was doing that before. So that was our challenge. So we actually had to work out what this looked like. So this is our journey, this is where we're at the moment. It's certainly not the end of a journey, but we wanted to share our learning with you. So just to start with, this is some of the KISS team at the NDIS rally that was held earlier in the year. So you just want to see that our team is bigger than us. So we're part of. So our presentation today, we're going to really quickly do what is KISS, the Kinder Inclusion Support Service, in case you don't know haven't come across that before, how our roles have developed and what our roles are. Our learning, you'll notice you've been given a puzzle. We really feel like our journey of developing a model has been like putting all the pieces together in a puzzle, drawing upon our early childhood background. Hence we represent our poster as a puzzle. Please use the puzzle as your notes for our session. If there's sort of something we say or a key word or something, feel free to see if you can put your puzzle together around developing inclusive practices and supporting building capacity within early childhood teams. So feel free to use this as your note paper and see how you go at putting a puzzle together. We'll give you a bit of background to our support program. We have done some research around our program. We'll talk about that briefly. And we really wanted to present today from and really highlight the complexities of all of this. You know, it isn't just something that's black and white. We'd love a model to just be simply do this, and wouldn't that be wonderful? We could all just get on and do it. This is very complex. There's a lot of relationships involved in all of this, and there's a lot of different perspectives, and we really want to focus on the child's perspective in supporting the development of inclusive practices and the educator's perspective, and Sue's going to highlight that later. And we've embedded all this, if you look at our poster, there's the tiered service delivery model is sitting in the middle there, and so we're embedding our this paper within the tiered service delivery model around strengthening the capacity of our universal services. So this is, for those We work in the Urella Inclusion Support Service. We sit in this southern region here. When this slide was done for the conference, we had 116 additional assistants working in the program. My manager told me to tell you there's now 130 with the latest recruitment, and we are supporting over 135 kindergartens now. And it's growing. We're in a growth corridor, it's growing. So the objective of the KISS program, and we did have to update this since our presentation because the 2013 funding guidelines have come out, is to build the capacity of funded kindergartens to support the access and participation of children with a disability. So we're part of that building capacity. Our focus is on our early childhood educators. So part of the resources that could be offered to a kindergarten is the additional assistance as part of an additional team member, not an integration aid. We always like to get that in. It's not an integration aid. It's not someone to tag, as you, who was talking to me earlier about tagging, not someone to tag the child. It's an additional team member, and then our support is to the educators around the whole program design. We're really looking at that big picture. Just to go back, and Tim reminded us that over the past 20 to 30 years, there's really been a paradigm shift from a deficit model of disability to a social model. And I have been working in the field for well over 30 years, and my first position within what we'd call special ed was working in a nursing home for children with very complex needs. And I was part of a team that supported them out of their institution into a community house. 3/4 of them were wards of the state because it was felt that their parents could not care for them. So, you know, I remember sitting in when Carl Dunst first started talking about family-centred practice, and half the audience I thought was going to throw tomatoes at him. So, you know, we've come a long, long way, and I always like to remind people we've done, you know, lots happened in 30 years, trust me. And Tim Moore constantly reminds us that what we need is more supportive communities, better coordinated services. So we've been working in silos. It's time for us to start working together. And there's a wonderful lot of reading you can do around communities of practice and that development of communities of practice, you know, and I would really love to hear a lot more of that in our language and conversations. Improved dialogues between our communities, and that joint position statement is really going to foster that, I believe, and services at all levels. So it's about the government, about our specialists, about everybody taking responsibility for all children. It's about our future, really. So what this often means is we've held, as early childhood, put my early childhood intervention hat on, you know, we've been titled specialists, experts, and we carry those titles often with us. It's time for our early childhood educators to be the experts. We actually have to hand some of that responsibility over. In fact, we probably have to hand all that responsibility over. And we need to be that support to our early childhood educators. How do we support them to take responsibility to support all the children in their program? It isn't about having a kinder group and there's all the children and the child with a disability. And I think our silos have sort of led to that. It's about all children in the program. So I'll leave you with that. So how do we strengthen universal services and create opportunities to expand the role of specialists? So this isn't about taking away our skills. It is about using them to support the programs that can, we know from all our research, tell us that, you know, this is the best place for these children to learn and develop, but they also have to be high quality services. How can skills be transferred, Tim asks us, and early educators skilled up to gain the confidence and knowledge they need. And when I talk to early childhood educators, and we're out there every week talking, I actually tell them about this wonderful new development in early childhood intervention, that all children should be educated within their universal services. I think in many ways we forgot to tell them how exciting this is. And I call this coming ready or not. Have we actually told our early childhood educators that this is what's happening? How have they learnt about all this wonderful new research? And because they say to me, how come we're getting all these kids? You know, I've got 5 kids with disability in my group. Where are they all coming from? We've actually forgotten in many ways to tell them what this is all about. Thank you. I've got the 10 minutes. So Tim's about doing it together and learning from each other. I think it's a journey together. It's not about us just sharing our expertise. It's listening to them, listening to the child's voice. Thinking, how can this child succeed in this program? And I thank a gorgeous early childhood intervention worker who said to me one day, when her frustration with her team, she said, why can't they just get the potential of kindergarten? She just had a session with one of the workers about, the worker was complaining that the kindergarten wouldn't do what she wanted them to do, and we were having a bit of a debrief, which was lovely. So I thank her for those words. Is the child's voice really being listened to in this program? Is everyone in that program crazy about that child? Are you going into the program supporting everybody to be crazy about that child, or are you just, you know, feeding into the negatives, the challenges, creating more challenges? I ask lots of questions. I don't expect answers because it's far more complex than that. So how's the child being viewed in this environment? By their family, by the early childhood professionals, the community, by you. Okay, so I also leave you with this question. I like critical reflection because then you can put it in the context of your own situation. So, and this quote I found one day: do young children with disabilities get to play the same way as those without disabilities do? Okay, so this is about relationships. And Tim raised that before. Creating positive relationships, working relationships with environments. When do we start building these relationships? So think about that when you're in your service. A lot of educators will tell me that they haven't heard from their early intervention service. And then when I talk to the early intervention service, they say, oh, I was waiting for the kindergarten teacher to give me a call. The child's already turned the kindergarten program upside down. So when do you start building those relationships? Who initiates those relationships between the early childhood and early childhood intervention service? What role do you take in these relationships? Where do you build these relationships? How do you know you're getting the relationships right? How do you maintain relationships? And what are the strengths and the priorities within those relationships? Okay, so I'm going to hand over to Sue, and she's going to offer the voice of the educators that we've heard over the time. Do you want my notes?
Sorry while I fiddle around here. Yes, thank you, Anne. As Anne's mentioned, what I would like to talk to you about today is I'm going to talk to you as the educator in the kindergarten program, and I'm talking to you as key workers, professionals, therapists, and that's who you are sitting out there today. And Anne just mentioned about relationships, and we're going to base this little chat around around the pyramid model that is based on Mary Louise Hemeter's pyramid model, and we've just adapted it a little bit for the work that we do. So first of all, when you come into my kindergarten, I would like you to introduce yourself to me. So let me know who you are and introduce yourself to my team, and let them know who you are, and explain your role to all of us, what you're there for, what you can do to provide support for us, how often you're going to come, and how you're going to record your visits. And this brought to me back in July, I think it was, one of our educators said to me, Sue, Mary's coming next week. And I said, who's Mary? Oh, I don't know, she's from some early intervention service. She didn't know who this person was. She said, she's coming to see me next week. She said, what will she be doing when she comes? Why is she coming, and what questions can I ask her? So that really got Anne and I thinking about the very simple things of just ringing and saying who you are, why you're coming, because the teachers, as teachers, we're a bit nervous about professionals, experts, other experts coming into our service and watching us. What are they going to be doing? So please introduce yourselves to us when you come into your service. And also familiarise yourself with all the team. You know, what we're doing on a daily basis and our routines, our transitions, our skill level and our confidence, because that will help us work together as a team, and it's all about building those relationships. And also in Virginia Boyce's research, she recommends that at least 3 visits to build up that relationship with me as a kindergarten teacher. And I know that your time is really stretched. That doesn't have to be a physical visit to the kindergarten, it can be phone calls, emails as well, but just build up that relationship as well. Because I'm wanting a professional that's going to work in partnership with me, with my team, and you're going to share your expertise and your knowledge and support our learning as well. So I really need to trust you when you're coming into my service. Also, I need you to understand my beliefs and values, what my early childhood beliefs are based on, in supporting the young children in my service. Because this year, we have worked really hard in our service to develop our philosophies and our values and our beliefs based on the national quality frameworks and the national quality standards. So let me tell you about them, what our values and beliefs are, and that will help you work with the child or children that you're here for. Also, I need a professional that's coming to work with me that understands the language of the frameworks, the National Early Years Learning Frameworks, and those of us that work in Victoria, our Victorian Early Years Learning and Development Frameworks. So someone who can discuss the child's learning in relation to the frameworks and so we're all using similar language. So it needs to be language, you know, in relation to identity, well-being, communication, community and learning. And also what's really important, I need you to see the potential of my early childhood program, that children are socialising, being part of the community, having a look at what their strengths and interests are and their motivations, and the opportunities for the children just to be, to belong and become. Because I know some of the services that we go into, as soon as you walk in the room, oh, this has got a great feeling of belonging for all these children. So please understand that when you come into our services. Sorry, I'm jumping from being the kinder teacher to the inclusion support worker. I need your knowledge. I need to find out what you know, your resources and strategies, and all that support that you can help me to strengthen our capacity to work as a team with the child that you're coming to visit. Because we want together with you to design a very high quality program, high quality environments, as Tim has mentioned this morning. It's all about the environment that the children are learning and playing in is where they're going to do all that learning. And as one of our slides said before, Cheryl, who works in Urella with us, said, how can this child succeed in this program? And that's a really important question, I think, for us all. Oh, thank you, Anne. Next level you're up to. No. So our next level, intentional, sorry, I'm racing along, I know time's of the essence. Intentional teaching. I need you to role model also what you'd like us to do with the child that you're coming to visit. Not just tell me, here's some board maker pictures, use these in the program. I need you to sit down on the floor with me or sit at the experience with the children and show me how that works. Because I've never seen these board maker pictures before. I don't know what to do with them. And you said you want the child to hold the pencil correctly. What does that mean? Or, you know, in your experience with this particular child. And role model and ask them if, you know, you might want to go into the storeroom to see what things you can use. For example, I went to a service one day and I was looking around the kinder thinking there's nothing I can really use to show them what I mean. So we asked them if they had any shredded paper in the office. So out came the shredded paper and we just had a ball working with this little person. Made a huge mess, but the teacher said to me, I would never have thought of getting that out. But if I'd have said to this teacher, go and get some shredded paper and, you know, allow the children to work, all the children to play with it, he would have just looked at me like, what am I going to do with that? Also, please discuss with me the goals for the family, the goals that you're working on with the family, so we can use that in our program as well, and we can plan together to best meet the needs of the family and also our early childhood program. And I might want to, as a kindergarten teacher, pick your brains for all the knowledge that you've got, because you're the expert in this particular area. So please help us with that. Now we get to the pointy end of the pyramid, the intensive support, which early childhood educators, kindergarten teachers, not quite sure about this pointy end of the pyramid, so please tell us what this is all about, where and how these intensive strategies can be embedded into our play-based programs, because that's really important that these strategies, whether it's therapies, different therapies you're going to be doing, that they can be embedded into the play-based program. And also play-based experiences that the child's going to enjoy, but with all their friends and all their peers in the kinder. I may need you to help me develop a positive behaviour support plan of intensive individualised intervention that can be applied in my setting, in my kindergarten. Not one that's going to be applied at home, but one that's going to be applied here in my service with all the children. And also I need you to help me be creative, possibilities for the children, and also that we have fun in our kinder. So things that are fun for everybody. And also I need you to be there to discuss any tensions that are happening between the suggested strategies you've given me and our play-based programs, because that's something that as Anne mentioned, that we're all working together now. Our early intervention services and early childhood services, how we're going to embed all these strategies so they're all working in our play-based programs. And I know from the visits that Anne and I are doing, so many of you are doing this really, really well, but we've still got a long way to go to encourage all of us to respect each other's work, respect the work of the early childhood educators, the teachers in the kindergarten play-based programs, and yourselves as therapists. Because we've all got lots of knowledge to share with each other, and I think we just all need to remember that. So our pyramid, I think we use pyramids in lots of our work as well, and we just can adapt those as well. So thank you all very much for that.
So, I'll grab the microphone. Okay, so I'll just hold that. Our presentation's been about putting puzzle pieces together, hopefully, just a little bit. This is something we usually do over an hour and a half, 2 hours. So, and this is what this is all about. This is why it's really important, because if we're giving advice, and this is the outcome, you've just wasted all your time, and we're an expensive commodity. And so often I go into a service and I find that, you know, the compics, I'm going very old-fashioned, the board makers that you've just made, they're sitting on the bench and they'll stay there. So all that work you put into putting them together, they won't move off that kitchen bench, let me tell you. And, you know, because I'll ask about visuals and they'll go, oh, I think they're in the drawer somewhere, you know. So we're wasting our time and our money otherwise if we don't get this right. So, and if I put a manager's hat on, you know, that's a good reason to get it right. And, oh, I thought there was one more. Oh, there we go. Can I just tell a really quick story, Liz? Yes. I'm so sorry. I know we're cutting into your time. And you go back to the child's voice. This is why it's important. I am an early childhood educator as well. Several years ago, I had a gorgeous young group, and one of the little boys had quite severe cerebral palsy, and he palled up with his friend, a little girl, and they were just the best of mates. They had the best year together. Anyway, we'd been talking about, you know, when you grow up, what you're going to do, da-da-da-da, all those conversations you have at 4-year-old kinder. Anyway, she came to me with this drawing. She'd been thinking, and she had really high expectations for this kid, which some others didn't have those high expectations, because this is what she told me. She said, I want you to write this story, Anne, so I can give it to my friend. And it said, this is for you. You're having a rest. You are dreaming of what you're going to do when you grow up. This was going to a little boy who was in a wheelchair, using a wheelchair for mobility. You can fly a rocket. So if 4-year-olds can get it right, surely we can. And that's my final word. We'll leave it to the children. And thank you, Liz, for letting us take your time. Ta.